Davidson. I work for the East Texas MAD affiliate of East Texas, sorry. And so I'm going to just talk briefly. This is a really short version of a presentation that we do for parents. It's how to talk to your kids about alcohol and other substances as well. We know that it's really important that parents have these critical conversations and don't just assume that, hey, my kid knows how I feel. It's important to actually have that conversation. I have a 12-year-old at Caldwell, and I have a daughter who just graduated Legacy High, and we've been having these conversations since they were probably 6 years old. You can't just have the conversation once, you have to have it reoccurring. So far it's panned out. My 19-year-old won't touch the stuff, and I'm just glad. So I know she's faced with a lot of temptations in college, but she's got her head on straight and she knows how we feel. So at MAD, we do have 4 main goals. The first one is we want to end drunk driving. There's too many people that are getting killed on our roads still. We've been around since 1980. We've roughly cut it in half. It was 20,000 lives each year. Now we're at 11,600. On 2019, we had it 10,100. So we're starting to head the wrong direction again. So it's really important we get our message out. The second one, help fight drug driving. A lot of people don't realize, but marijuana is an impairing substance, and it does impair how you drive. So it is illegal in all states to use a substance like that and then drive afterwards. Support the victims of this violent crime. Unfortunately, we're having more and more victims, but we've helped over 1 million since we were founded in 1980. And then the last one is to prevent underage drinking. So this is called Power of Parents. Basically, parents have the power to talk to their kids about this. I also talk in high schools, middle schools, even elementary schools. We have a separate program for that. And I spent 2 days last week at Tyler High, and we'll be spending 2 days right after Thanksgiving at Legacy, and then 2 more at Tyler High. I'm talking to all the seniors, and so this is really good information for them to not only have early, but then also before they decide to go to college or the workplace. So those are our 2 programs. This is just a short video, and we are sponsored with Nationwide.
Hello, I'm Martha Fry, Mothers Against Drunk Driving Board Member and Senior Vice President of Personal Lines Claims at Nationwide. Nationwide is honored to partner with MAD to empower parents to talk to their children about the danger and consequences of underage drinking and drug use. As a mother, I know the profound impact parents can have by simply talking to their children about difficult topics and answering their questions. The Power of Parents campaign is an excellent resource to help parents start and continue these crucial conversations. As a company committed to protecting people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care, there is no more important work that aligns with our values than to keep drivers and passengers safe. Thank you for your passionate commitment to preventing underage impaired driving. Nationwide is proud to stand with you on this life-saving mission.
All right, so here's the key objectives. So the problems and consequences of underage drinking and marijuana use, the role of teens, their friends and peers, the role of adults, role of parents, and what you can do today, tomorrow, and in the future to keep your kids safe. You have a power to make a difference. So of course, we all know that alcohol is the #1 choice, and some of that is due to availability. A lot of people do have alcohol in their homes, which is fine if they're 21 and over. So they just need to have those conversations, because the #1 spot for people to get alcohol is from their own homes. Teen use kills more than 4,300 youth each year, and that's not just because of driving. And then kids who start drinking young are 7 times more likely to be in an alcohol-related crash. The bottom part is really alarming. It says that your kids are weighing the pros and cons of drinking alcohol as early as age 8. So again, that's why I started talking to my kids as soon as they were able to kind of listen and talk about. And when they're that young, you use like the situations you're in. Maybe you're at a party and adults are drinking. You can talk to them about how that's an adult drink and things like that. If you see someone that's overly intoxicated, you can even point that out and say, hey, they didn't make a good choice, and we want you to make good choices. So this is how it's all broken down with those 4,300 fatalities. So if you look at the 32%, that's traffic related. So we do see young adults that drink and then drive, but it's only 32% of those fatalities. Another big part is drownings and homicides. The homicides are usually fights that have escalated. Because again, when they're using alcohol, the brain isn't working right and they don't know when to stop and they take it too far. Suicides, other poisonings, alcohol poisonings, and so on. So this is really an important slide. So it's a depiction on how the brain develops. So the 5-year-old brain, as you can see, has lots of different colors. And Rebecca here has a 5-year-old at home. She can tell you if they're immature, which is what they're supposed to be at that age group. Preteen has a little bit more purple and blue, which means it's more fully mature. My son is in that 12-year-old bracket right there. And so he's got a little bit more maturity, but still, I mean, he leaves his clothes and trash everywhere. We're working on that. The teen brain, a lot of kids, even at 18 years old, they feel like they're grown. I mean, our society says, hey, you're 18, you can vote now. So they think that they're all set, but they still are not done. Even at 20, their brain is still growing. That prefrontal cortex right here still has some green and it has some yellow going on. And that's the part that they use to make good decisions. So if you ever ask your kid, hey, what in the world were you thinking? Well, they aren't able to think like us. Okay, so a lot of times, middle school and high schoolers, they tend to overestimate how many teens actually use alcohol. If you ask them, and that's a common thing I do, how many do you think most teens use alcohol? They all say yes, overwhelmingly. They think that everybody uses. The reality is, according to our last school survey, Texas school survey, it was only about 30%, and actually 26% in East Texas. So that's good news. However, those kids need to hear that most kids are not choosing to drink, because if they think that everybody is drinking, then they themselves are more likely to, because they want to fit in. So those common misperceptions lead to the belief that it's normal, there's more pressure to fit in, and then it results in more drinking. A lot of adults think, and my coworker, she's actually guilty of this. So she thought that it was safe to let her teen drink in the house. She could monitor him. She thought she was keeping him safe, taking away that mystery. She drank when she was a teenager, and she turned out okay. So a lot of parents are like, well, I did that, and it's okay. Or they celebrate a special occasion that way. My mom worked for MAD in the 80s, and she was even guilty of letting me have sips of her wine at Christmas. So we have learned a lot in the last 42 years, and we know now that that's not a good choice. So we know that if parents allow their kids to drink at home, they're going to drink more often, and have more problems. So basically, you're giving your kid permission by letting them drink in your house. You're saying alcohol's okay, even though you're not 21, alcohol's okay. So then they're more likely to drink with their friends. Because again, you haven't said that alcohol's a problem, okay? And so then they have more problems because they make riskier choices. Again, you can't teach your child or teen how to drink responsibly. You wouldn't give your kid cocaine to use at home to try. So it's the same thing. It is a mind-altering substance. So people just need to remember it is dangerous. So I did bring a couple of books back there, and then the shorter guides. If you guys want more, I can get those. But 3 out of 4 teens say their parents are the leading influence on their decision about drinking. So it's really important to have those conversations. And the earlier you can do it, the better, because you really don't want to wait until there's a problem. But it's never too late. This is Dr. Robert Teresi from Penn State, and he's just going to talk a little bit about our alcohol culture.
So alcohol is the most prevalent drug used in the United States, and other than coffee. But it's the largest one, and it's usually the one that kids get exposed to earliest in their lives. It's really hard not to go somewhere in the United States and be away from alcohol. So when parents ask me why alcohol, why should we talk about alcohol among all the risky things that can occur, it's because it's the one that's out there the most. We don't advertise all other drugs during sporting events and other things. And so a lot of our kids are exposed to alcohol advertising at very early ages. When they watch games on TV or they go to games live or something along those lines. The endorsement of alcohol is pretty popular in America. And the access to it is in every home. Almost. I'd say every home, but it's in most homes. So alcohol is a great place to start these conversations, especially since many adults drink socially. It's a good opportunity for them to talk about their own drinking, why drinking can be healthy at times and harmful at other times. That's not to say that other drugs aren't important to talk about. Again, we're in the midst of, unfortunately, our nation's largest opioid crisis. And there's a lot of reasons why that's going on, and a lot of parents are being exposed, unfortunately, to the fact that they have really good kids that have been exposed to opioids and are addicted. So I think it's really important to talk about a lot of different topics that are relevant in our society today. Alcohol being clearly one of them, marijuana being another one, opioids being another one. At the end of the day, we want our kids to be healthy and live positive lives and be independent and be passionate about things. And unfortunately, alcohol and other substances are usually not part of the development process to help them in that way.
So this is kind of what's in there. It has a lot of different information if you are interested in that. It even has spots where you can talk about your own, if you were drinking when you were young, and how you can talk about that with your child. And then really to start the conversation, simply start where you are today. Ask how many of your friends use alcohol? Or what? Or why? Or why do you think people use alcohol when there are such negative results in many cases? Get in the habit of asking permission. So, hey, do you have 5 minutes? Can we sit down and talk about something important? Don't get them when they're going out the door. Don't get them when they're studying for a test. But find a time that they'll actually listen to you. Talk a lot. Talk every day. My son gets a lot on his way to school because he has to be in there, so he doesn't have a choice. And then just seek discussion. Don't lecture. It's really important to get their input and their opinions. This last part is my coworker, and the audio is not great, but her story is really important that I would like to share with you. So bear with the audio.
I was the parent who allowed her children to drink at home because I thought by allowing them to do that, if not, I could control it. What I later realized by reading on want to talk to the board is that I created a binge drinker, and that both of his kidneys were congested diffusely. The youngest one did not get the opportunities that the middle one and the eldest one did because of Eric's death, but I had always told them, they always knew that if they ever went somewhere and they had been drinking themselves, that they knew to call me, that I would come get them. There were many times that had happened, but just with Eric, not with Ricky, or really not much with Ryan, but with Eric, he was the one that would try anything once and sometimes twice. So the conversations that we had were never don't drink. It was just don't get in the car with somebody after they've been drinking, or call me and I'll come get you. I never thought to tell him, because it was never told to me not to do it. And I truly thought that just by letting him do it at home, being under that, controlling it that way, I thought things would be okay. And didn't realize how wrong I was until it was too late.
All right, and that's it. Does anyone have any questions? All right. You're welcome. Good job. Thank you. That's a short one.
Now you're going to review through the bylaws. You have a copy. So the first copy you should have shows all of the changes. It's really ugly copy, but I think we worked really hard on it. And I'll write something in. So this copy right here is 2 pages. Shows the whole bylaws, but with all of the changes that we made. So you can see all of the markups and all of the changes as we went through them. So on the website, currently, which I'm going to pull out for you, hopefully not completely lose. I will show you what the current bylaws are. That have been in place since I don't know when. These right here. So the big piece in them that does not meet Texas Education Code is down here at the bottom. It's always in front of us. It says that the officers must consist of a Tyler ISD employee. That does not meet Texas Education Code. The chairs must be a parent, and the co-chair, the officers must. So it actually cannot be a Tyler ISD employee. Nobody employed by the district can be the officer. So if we redo the bylaws and update them, because the officers must be parent. This is a parent-led council, right? I am your representative, so I'm your liaison between the district to help take things to the school board. I help you get them on the agenda. I have your connection. I help you get this room and all of those type of things. I help you get the meeting set up. But other than that, this is a parent-led council. So I sat down with Kristen and Catherine several weeks ago, and we redrafted and made all the necessary changes to make these bylaws in accordance with the Texas Education Code. So, and as easy as possible so that we're not held to a lot of constraints that would keep us, very, very strict. So we're, minimum that we have to meet 4 times a year. I attended SHAC 101 last week at Region 7, there are SHACs that are meeting 9 times a year. We are not gonna be able to do that. So, I wanna get together just for like dinner and stuff.
Go for it.
We're not holding ourselves to 9 times a year. So, anyway, minimum 4 times a year that we have to meet. And we are going to do that. When we adopt new curriculum, then we have to have extra meetings and things. But, so y'all read through these, take your time. If you have any questions, we can answer them the best way possible. And then we will have a vote.
Oh, that's interesting. Should not exceed 30.
Yes, sir.
So how many, you say the officers have to be ISD parents?
All of them.
All of them? How many officers are there?
There's 3. We have 2 co-chairs and a secretary.
So you
It's
currently,
parent or guardian.
you currently have,
Yes, sir. We have 2 co-chairs and a secretary. So we have Kristen Bentley and Catherine Kepler, and then Chastity Dunham is our secretary for this year.
okay,
Hey, Rachel. Where it says it's not, membership shouldn't exceed 30, is that from the state?
It's a recommendation because they don't want you having too many. Now, more people can attend the meeting, but so we have to turn in a membership list to the school board at our meeting in September every year, and that membership list is then accepted by the school board. So those members are the ones that then can officially vote
Okay.
on the major things that we then take to them, like curriculum adoptions and things like that. Any other questions?
so in the membership role, as far as voting on the quorum, so is that quorum, I guess, as far as what defines that, was established in September
Where, I'm sorry.
under meetings, or it's section 4, quorum? The president was the one half of the members who constitute a quorum. Well, okay, no, that answered my question, I'm sorry. 2/3 of the quorum, so if that quorum present, so. Just who's ever present at that meeting. There's no minimum, that answers the question.
else has any other questions, then we'll go ahead and vote on these. Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Great. All those pass. And we'll get those updated on the website as soon as possible. Okay.
Just for y'all's books, do we need to have a formal motion or anything for that particular?
It doesn't have to be an official vote. But they can change them or anything anytime we select it. Or by law. I learned that at SHAC 101 last week too. It's amazing what I learned at SHAC 101. Not what else we do.
That was at Region 7?
I'm sorry.
That was through Region 7?
It was. They offer it, I think, once a year. So not that often. And it's mostly the nurse liaisons and nurse leaders that are at each campus in East Texas. It was good. We are doing very well at our facility. But we're really good. So, and I came up, they gave us a lot of good ideas. I did want to touch base on what the purpose of SHAC is, especially after our meeting last week, because sometimes we can go off on rabbit holes and different things in our meetings, and so just kind of bringing us back to what is SHAC about and what is our purpose. And so just, we're here to, like I said, we work together with schools to carefully plan health programming, and which we did all of last year to help adopt new health curriculum. And the impact on student health, sharing teaching methods, working through obstacles, and helping with assessment activities. That could be part of it, talking about health issues, selecting programs, and having training as well. The big thing in SHAC with all of Texas is the whole school, whole community, and whole child approach to health and learning. And so that's the big thing of when we're in our meetings, just kind of staying on that topic, is remembering that the health and wellness is really our focus with everything. So, and trying to stay on that topic. So, moving forward, away from the bottles. So, I know that we've mentioned before is vaping and how big of an issue that is on all of our secondary level campuses. Luckily, it's touched a little bit on our elementary campuses, but not as much as it has at middle school and high school campuses. So, I went to our administration team and asked them if we could look at trying to find a vaping cessation type program that we could put in place for our students for when they go to DAP. Because right now, whenever a student is caught with a vaping device or caught in the act of vaping on any of our campuses, whether it's THC or nicotine, it's an automatic assignment to DAP for 30 days. So now we looked and we found lots of these. Several of them, it just gives us materials and things that we can print out. But the top one that I'm going to show you is called My Healthy Future. It's through MD Anderson. And hopefully we'll open it. So I think this is the one that's going to work best. It's actually a program that we can assign to the students. And when they go over to DAP, we will be able to assign it to them. They will go through it, and I'll show you the modules here in just a second. They will go through it. They'll have to answer questions. They'll have to go through videos, and it's kind of like it's showing them the effects of what does vaping do to you. And they have to put in the email address of trusted adults is what it says, but it will be the counselor over there at DAP. And once they finish it, and it can take up to an hour of time to complete it once they do the modules, And then when they finish, they then have either a one-on-one or a small group session with that counselor to discuss their answers. And it can be everything from, yes, they want to quit, I'm thinking about quitting, or no chance, not interested. And they can talk to them about what those choices might be. So at this time, this is probably our best bet. We found a lot out there. There's a lot of things. Yes, ma'am.
Do they say anywhere on here about evidence of how effective it is?
Of this one,
Mm-hmm.
Officer Davis was asking for something like this for
Yeah.
their DAB.
I don't know if it's on this specific website.
I mean, if it's Stanford, it's probably
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I don't have that information right now.
Okay. Maybe the YU's. But
I mean, that's just like the why this one doesn't go through it like the data.
I think what there's more evidence of is that when we give this kind of almost therapeutic approach, does everyone know what DAEP is? It's the alternative program that a student is sent to when there's disciplinary action. So we want to make sure that rather than just punishing them, that we're offering a really high quality program that will counsel them on, making a better decision in the future. And so when we were looking, there wasn't necessarily, I think, a lot of research showing which ones are most effective, but we do believe that this one is a really good quality program.
It's something that'll be a requirement that they're in there so they can be exposed to it, they can be educated. There's a lot of people, they just think, oh, it's not a big deal, it's safer than cigarettes, it all
I think
becomes
it's hard paper.
misunderstanding. So putting something in front of them to kind of educate them while you have them here is probably a good approach to it.
yeah, I love that.
This is one of them. So we looked at about 20 different ones.
Oh, jeez. That's a lot.
The problem is, it talks about how to sign a course and whatnot. So it's modules. There are a lot of good dating cessation programs out there. The problem with a lot of them, Singapore offers one. There's a breakthrough program that we even offer that for kids to go to, and they can earn time off of their assignment if they go and complete different things. The problem with a lot of the different ones, like Catch My Breath and all of those that come out and do it, it requires them, it has to be a teacher that comes to the person to the class and do it. The problem with that is we have 3 kids that get sentenced to this.
Yeah.
We have 4 kids that get
Revolving
sentenced
door.
tomorrow, 5 kids that get sentenced tomorrow, another one that gets sentenced. So they're starting at all different times. And so when we have that, it's so inconsistent. And so we need something that we can assign on a computer, and it needs to be self-paced.
Right.
Because, it's just, it has to be
Yeah,
self-paced.
logistically,
It would
a
totally
nightmare.
be better if we could do it all face-to-face. We all know that that's better. But unfortunately, with this, with it being able to finish that way and then meet with somebody, and it be the counselor, I actually just got approval for, having nurses aid up there too that I'm also going to train.
That's great.
So that would be a little bit of backup as well. So between that person, maybe the nurse and the counselor, maybe 3 people, we can have a little bit of rotation as to who they need to. Because I have a male nurse down at the elementary school that's right there at Peak, so maybe they'll want to meet with a male instead of a female. So have a little bit of a change there.
That's
So
great.
it's a little bit of a mix. So, do you want to see a module to see what it looks like? I can also send the links out. So y'all.
Sure.
Does this one cost the district money?
It's free.
It's great.
Great.
Yes. There's also I'm going to have Haley talk to you about called Aspire.
Aspire is something that we're going to do with our 6th graders in PE that are also doing, that'll be part of their health education that we do during their PE time. We'll be doing it in 7th grade science, and then we'll also be doing during their 9th grade health, if they're 9th grade health, or actually I shouldn't say 9th grade health, it's any health that they are in. It's also through MD Anderson. It is also a free program. That's the kind of when Rachel and I were discussing it, that's the good thing, is that it's kind of piggybacking on what they've already heard. So a lot of those things that they've already heard, if they do, hopefully not, but if they did go to DAP, they're going to hear those same things again when they're doing that other course.
Mm-hmm.
But we're hoping that by doing those the basic education in those grade levels, that we're hoping that we're not going to have as many, of course, go to DAP for the vaping.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just getting them educated on what it is doing to their body, and we're going to be doing it, of course, with 6 after the human sexuality. There's a little time there, and it is also on the computer. It also is self-paced, and it's a great course. I mean, it's very interactive, user-friendly. I mean, I think it's great. There's nothing right now available for elementary, and that's something that they're working on. When we looked at it, it's a little too much for the elementary, but they are working on that, because unfortunately we're seeing it a little younger. Not necessarily here in Tyler, but in other districts they're seeing it, and there is a need for it. So, but that is something that we have done it in the past. They've used it in the past. They've used it in 7th grade science, and so now we're going to get on it for 6th grade and 9th grade.
The kiddos, I don't know if we know this, but I'm just wondering, the kiddos who have been caught, if they've been asked about like why they're using, like, are they dealing with stress, or are they just curious about it? Do we know any of that?
I think they don't. Some of them say they're stressed. Some of them get it from older sisters.
Yeah.
And that might be something that the counselor, when they're
That is
doing that,
part
yeah.
So it's part of this education. So once they go through, when they go through these, that is part of it. Like their questions and things as to why they have to do it.
Hello again, it's your Healthy Future ally, Richard, and I wanted to walk you through the last module. This last module is going to have activities similar to module 1, but there are some new add-ons that make it cool, because you can actually download the information that you respond to. So this is the most personalized module in the course, and you'll see why when you look at the next pages. So let's look at the first page of module 3. The first page focuses on stress, and what's cool about this is there's information about stress. So you'll see on this documentation tool that you need to scroll all the way to the bottom to see everything. And when you're ready to move on to the next section, all you have to do is click on this blue arrow to do so. Now, in this documentation tool, you'll see that there are activities that will ask for your response, and you'll see how later in the documentation tool, those responses will come back, and you'll do something with those responses. Another way of navigating this documentation tool is to click on the roadmap that you see on your left. So if you click on the title, it will take you to the next part of the documentation tool. But as a reminder, remember to scroll down and read through all of the information that you see here before moving on to the next section. So remember those ways that you told us you deal with stress? Well, you actually get an opportunity to label those coping mechanisms or coping techniques. And what's neat about after you label them is that in the documentation tool at the very end, you can actually download all of that information. So the next time you have a stressful event, or stress does come up for you, you can have a list of the best ways for you to deal with your stress based on what you know about yourself. So that was the first page, and I want to quickly show you the second page of this third module. So depending on where you're at in your quick journey, you may be ready, you may not be ready, and that's okay. If you're interested in reducing how much vaping you're doing, I recommend that you go through this section and see if there's anything valuable to you. So in the first part of this page, you'll see that there is a presentation tool with some information that you can read over before going into the second part of this page. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's another documentation tool similar to what we saw on the first page. And what's cool is that this documentation tool is a little more personal, so I'll ask you some questions that you will respond to. And when you're ready to move on to the next part of this documentation tool, you can click on the blue arrow at the bottom, or you can also click on the roadmap here. So when you're ready to go on to the next section, it'll take you there. Remember that each page has questions for you to answer. And in this last module, we asked what your quick date might be. And what's cool about this documentation tool is at the very end, there's a section for printing and saving all of your responses. So when you're trying to remember what you have for your quick plan, you'll already have it on a document saved onto your computer. This is another reason why we recommend that you do this on a computer, desktop, or laptop, so it's easier for you to have your quick plan. And you can print it or just have it for when you're trying to remember what motivates you to quit. So that is pretty much the last.
That's cool.
I mean, the first two are like educating them about educating them about what baking is, the dangers, and things like that. So they have to do some quizzes. And like I said, at the end of it, once they answer all of those questions, the counselor, whoever's email address they put in, gets the answers and all emailed to them so that they can, in their counseling session, review all of those with them. And then they can even set up follow-up appointments.
That's great.
So, I think that's pretty much all we have on the agenda for today. Did anybody have any other questions or anything they wanted to discuss?
Also, too, I just wanted to put in the human sexuality opt-in stuff is going on right now. You might have received emails if you have a student in 6th, 7th, or 9th, or health, if they're in health in high school. I'll say 9th because that's usually the grade level. So we have esteemed books back here. That is the curriculum we use. So if you're interested in looking through the books, there's a website that we've attached to all of that information that shows the actual books. But that show the books online, but if you actually like to look through them, they're back here. Tanya Wade is our esteemed representative that's here. So if you have any questions about that, you are more than welcome to go back there and she can answer any question that you have 10 times better than I can. So
Anything else for us?
I was just wondering, because I vaguely remember the last meeting, but I know we talked about a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
Whatever came of that?
The brainstorming, things like that. The big ones were baking. That was one of the big ones. And a lot of them were off topic and not health related. And so we went through a lot of those now. The big ones that were health related were our newsletters. And so we actually did start working on those, and some of those have gone out. And so a lot of health topics have been included in parent newsletters for some of the districts, and some of the campuses, some of the campuses, and so those have been started, so campus newsletters, and then we've also started some of the fitness programs as well.
And I'm in the process right now of working with getting East Texas Food Bank to come to some of our schools and work with our schools on nutrition with parents, how to shop on a budget. And East Texas Food Bank, I didn't realize this, and maybe I was the only one that didn't realize this, but they actually help parents fill out, like low-income families fill out their forms for SNAP or WIC or whatever, is needed, and they'll sit down with these families and help them go through each of these different resources that that are out there for them. So we're just trying to coordinate dates with especially middle schools with athletics and all these kind of things, because we have kind of a pilot program that we want to try with one of the middle schools first. And so we were just trying to work out the dates, so I have to keep going back and forth between the middle school and East Texas Food Bank. So that's where we are in that.
Because a lot of those programs are done when they're in, young.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like as they grow up, you kind of forget about them, unfortunately, and so that's why we're like, it's very important, I think, that we get those programs back in there, and that's a very big thing when we're seeing the obesity rate at the point that it is for our kids.
We're also working on creating an MOU with the Family Circle of Care has a new mobile medical unit. We've all seen it around town. It's a RV that they have turned into, has two exam rooms in it, and then they're also able to do immunizations, and then they have a nurse practitioner solely that's dedicated to that unit. And so we're creating an MOU with the school district, and so we will be utilizing, when we get the MOU in place, we will be utilizing that to bring in campuses to do immunizations in the spring semester, mainly for our 6th graders going into 7th grade to help them, because it's very hard sometimes to get those done. And then also during the summertime as well, but then also they can bring that nurse practitioner to help some of our athletes get their physicals completed. And then we'll also be using it for our Head Start program in August to help them with their universal screening days, because they have to have physicals and immunizations as well.
And I would just add that, as a committee, we can talk about, new projects or discussing other things, and we just want to make sure that we are within the scope of what the intent of the committee is. So definitely feel free as committee members and community members, parents, to suggest things that we can work on. I know, that's the whole point of why we're here. And I know that we're open to all suggestions, as long as they're, in that realm of what we're here to do.
Yeah, the phrase, I think you mentioned a year ago, the tracks being launched, at least legacy track, and I have to say it's unlocked, which is good. It's accessible now, which I feel like as a community, I'm in favor of. I appreciate that. I'm sure they lock it after certain hours, but it's accessible and on weekends to go to.
I think they're unlocked.
Yeah.
As long, and they said they'll leave them unlocked as long as we don't have any damage.
Absolutely.
We had a lot of strollers being used on the fields and track meetings, and that tends to tear them up.
Yeah.
And then people decide to use a lot of extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
And paraphernalia left.
We've had there's a couple of elementary schools that they've had to do it with, because of course your elementary kids are walking out to busted beer bottles and things like that. I mean, it's a safety thing. So there's a couple at the elementary levels that we've had to do that, but none of the middle schools or high schools at this point have had that happen.
Well, I totally get the balance there. It was kind of, I know from a public use standpoint, probably the 2 high schools I was thinking primarily, but nice to be able to pull that to the community.
Yeah, I think we've been good on that.
They have to lock TJ Austin.
On the option on
Because
the
we were
option,
fine
I
stuff
know
on
this has been a while. How long has,
Monday morning.
with the curriculum passed last year and previous year, just for benefit of everyone, maybe as far as the parents having the opt in? What's the recent year's change compared to prior year, just for color on what that looks like today versus what it used to look like?
Okay, it's brand new. This is the first year we're doing it. It's not what we're doing. It's the state of Texas.
Right.
It's an opt-in thing. Used to, it would be an opt-out. So if we were doing the human sexuality piece or the human sexuality part in our health class, if I did not want my child being a part of it, then I would sign sign the sheet that says I don't want my child being a part of it. I want them opting out of that part of health. Now it's a whole different level, because we have different sections of health, of even the human sexuality piece, we have different sections of, and they have to opt into every part of that. So say third grade has 3 different sections. Let's just talk about third grade. They have 3 sections, and I don't remember what they are, or 2 sections maybe.
Abuse and neglect.
And abuse and neglect, and is it a healthy relationships maybe, or is that what she can show you? So as you, oh look, she's going to show you her. If you've already signed it, have it come up. Okay. So if you log into your parent portal, you will have a spot that comes up. We're doing this all by parent portal, nothing by paper, which is wonderful because we have no way of tracking all the paper to do it.
Some parents
because this has to go this has to get to every teacher, every counselor. And the good thing with this too is our counseling is helping us with all the Senate Bill 9 subjects. So you go to health form, and then you will have it comes up like this. Her daughter's in third grade, right? So it's personal safety assistance and abuse and neglect. So say that I want my child, I'm good with that. Then I would click on both of those, and then I would click on that bottom one, and then I would be good. If I do not want my child to do it, then I would just
not do it.
Not worry about it.
Because if you don't action it,
what's that?
If they don't action this or go to the portal, what do they do in the class?
Well, we're sending constant emails and constant text reminders reminding them to do it. We're doing it at the district level at this point, and then we will end up going to the campus level and seeing if the campuses can help us get that.
Right here.
Yes.
Next to the curriculum for elementary.
Right. So if I have a third grader, I could click on that, and I could actually go down to the third grade, which is the personal safety assistance. I could click on that, and that would actually show me exactly what they are going to learn that day. And we are not going off of anything. I mean, there will be no added to, nothing. The counselors would be doing that in their counseling session. The state's idea was that this would be done during PE, but when you go to some of these other, like for instance, first grade is safe and unsafe touch. That's not something you need to do in PE class when some of our PE teachers have 80 kids in their class in elementary. So luckily our counseling staff is great, and they are going to be doing it all during their counseling sessions.
Okay.
Or in their counseling groups.
Okay. And I guess, forgive me on the just to stay on the third grade, using as an example. Thank you, that's great color on the third grade.
This is the secondary student.
Yes, and this will be a secondary. So secondary has all of these.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you would opt in to anything that you would want here. And this is part of the esteem.
And you can do esteem online as well.
Yes. I just did and you can view their samples.
Yeah, because it's called, what is it called at the elementary level?
Quavers are
last week. Okay, and so 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 the third grade example, understand that, and they're meeting basically in a class. It's the counseling class. I guess there's a counseling class. Okay, and then if they opt out, though, I guess then they go to PE if they're not doing it.
Well, each campus will have their own thing for them to do.
If they
are not opted into that, and that will be campus based. We don't decide that for them. So. And the good thing about esteem, though, is if they do decide to not fill the opt-in, there's more than just human sexuality in this. There's other, and you can go back there and look. This is just not human sexuality. This is actually a 10-week course. And so we're using McGraw-Hill in our 9th grade for our regular health class. And this is a supplement for it because our board, our committee chose this as our human sexuality piece. So if they're not doing the human sexuality part, they could actually go in there and do another section of it while those kids are doing that. So it's not like they're being left out of anything. I mean, I don't think anybody would have a problem with their kids talking about peer pressure or stress reduction or, something like things like that. Goal setting. I mean, is anybody gonna have mean, they have a problem with their child learning how to set goals, those kind of things.
And the curriculum that we chose is very reflective of our community, which is one of the reasons why we recommended it. It's very, I would say, non-controversial.
Very conservative.
Very conservative. And so it really does reflect, I think, our community, and so most people, I think, if they're educated on the curriculum and they've looked at it, they would not have a problem with it. So.
Just what about the mechanics of how in the classroom? So
Yes.
And so those are probably computer lab. I guess they have computers.
So first through fifth, all of the subjects except for puberty will be done in the counseling. Okay. Puberty, 4th and 5th grade, and body systems will be done through the nursing. The nurse will actually come in. They'll split it'll be girls will learn about the girls' reproductive system. Boys will learn about boys. With the boys, they will not learn about each other. Same thing with the puberty talk in 4th grade. Boys will learn about puberty for boys, and we'll talk, but the nurses will be doing that talk. And then in 6th grade, they do that in PE. They split, girls have girls PE, boys have boys PE. They do it there, and it's more like a self-paced type thing. But they do have discussion at the end. And then in 7th grade, they do it in 7th grade science. So they do it in 7th grade science. And then, of course, they do it in high school if you're assigned to health, which is mostly 9th graders, but we even have some seniors that are taking taking health.
So parents are receiving text messages?
Yes, if you have a child in any of those grade levels or in high school health, you are receiving emails or text messages with those things. Probably emails first.
Do we know how effective that is as far as getting feedback?
As of right now, we just started on Friday. Friday was our first time, and as of today, we had over 500 already have done it. And I think I think that's a great amount so far. So, and that was just with one email sent. So, and then we are due to do a text Thursday, just a reminder text. The biggest problem that we have, and this is with anything, is that parents put an email into Teams, which is where we pull it from, and it's not the email they check. So that's the largest problem we have, is that, I have the email, and I didn't know about this, but that's not the email they're using.
And it'll be going out in the newsletters to individual schools today.
Oh, great.
The majority of parents read those more than they read, I think, the huge texts and emails that go out from the main district. You read your individual school. Be honest. You read your individual and your school because you want to know what's going on in your individual campus. So those will be going out on your campus emails either today or tomorrow, whichever day it is go out.
Is that the first newsletter?
I'm sorry.
Is that the first newsletter to go out?
Yes.
Okay, because I was thinking I
we
hadn't
have
gotten one.
Whatever's going out either today or
And
tomorrow.
Okay.
how many students do we have that are receiving these?
Because for the first one we sent out was for all. And then this next one we're sending out is just for the high school, because they're the first ones that's going to get it. The elementary level will not start theirs until after we get back from Christmas, and then middle school, they don't start theirs until May. So there's different points of ones that are a little bit more important to get first, because we're teaching them first. So I couldn't really give you those numbers right at the moment. I'm sorry, because of who's. Yeah, we do have a timeline. It's kind of crazy that we have one.
Well, thank you, because I mean, this is actually a pretty significant event happening as part of SHAC. I think it's probably the biggest thing, certainly last year with all the information coming through, but the implications of the rollout and the feedback from parents. And it will be curious. I know you're tracking and I mean, obviously anonymously, but who does not opt in to the program and what those numbers look like. And maybe that'll shape a little bit of policy. If you had a significant non-opt-in group, what to do with those students as far as making sure that as you are doing that, the plan that's working, that kind of thing. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say, I think that's a great point, because really choosing the health curriculum is the primary duty that making the recommendation is one of our primary duties. So maybe at the end of the year, at our last meeting, we could analyze how many students participated, how many responded, and then we could make recommendations on maybe a policy, maybe not policy, but make some recommendations on how we could increase that if we feel like there wasn't a substantial.
Or answer questions maybe, as part of SHAC, just since it's related to health, help the information.
Our biggest concern about this is that if Texas decided to make it an opt-in thing, and a lot of these lessons are very, very important. So how many kids are going to miss out on some of these lessons because parents not opting in or being very worried about things put into religious education or they're not opting in because they chose to not opt into one, but just decided to not opt in for all of them.
Could we do like because I'm wondering if some of these parents aren't opting in. I know there's some that just forget or don't do it or whatever, but I'm wondering if there's a percentage that they want to be the one to talk to their kid about that.
And that's why we put, and I'm getting lots of phone calls. My email's on that. I'm getting lots of emails and phone calls and everything. And that's exactly the reason why we put the website of the curriculum on both of them.
Yeah.
We want them to know that pre-teach this to your student. I mean, go home. You can talk to your student about what they're going to be seeing before they see it. And that's exactly why we did it, because that was the feedback that we got from SHAC committee members at last spring when we started looking at this, is that they would like to see the information before. And so that's why we actually, the waiver people actually made that for us so that we could just click on it and it was that easy rather than having to dig through the curriculum. They made something very easy because that was the biggest question is, can we have something where we can just click on it, it's easy access so that we can kind of show our children what they're going to be getting before they get it. So it's kind of like a teaching moment.
Do they get on that page? Does it give them a link to the parent resource?
I don't know, I can look and see, but
continuing conversations.
Yes.
Like both of those.
Yes.
And you click on them and just download it for free.
Yes. But most of the people anybody that I've talked to that's been on the fence about any of it, after I've talked with them, they've opted in. It's just the not knowing.
Yeah.
And just needing a little bit more explanation. And some people don't even know what opt-in means. I mean, why are we opting into this? They don't understand why we've changed.
Right.
So it's not our decision on that one.
Yeah, just worry about the low-income schools.
Any other questions?
Do they not have internet access on
One
it?
thing real quick, I
They
was gonna
almost all have
encourage,
smartphones. It's
parents to
just
check in
a lot of
with
them
their,
just don't pay
community
attention. Like their
nurses.
parents
I
are
know
not
it's,
involved.
Yeah.
Because they have
kids have a lot of
5
needs,
kids, and so they
Can
just
do
don't.
jobs.
former
Yeah, and they
clothes,
don't.
and I know at Legacy, specifically, like there's
It's going to
several
come down
students
to the
who are
teachers
experiencing homelessness,
calling
and they
them
were
or
asking
the counselor
for
calling them.
socks and deodorant and body wash, just some basics. So if you're able to check in with the campus nurses and just see kind of what the needs are of the students, that would be wonderful.
Will say, I don't know why they were asking for hygiene needs, because we always have that. But we definitely need clothing in every campus nurse clinic because of accidents and things that happen. And we have lots of little shorts, but it's now cold. So imagine clean out your kids' closets.
Dang, I just gave away a bunch of clothes.
Wash them. We take used, it's not dirty. But used little shorts and pants and leggings will accept those anytime. So, yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Do we have little clothes closets at each campus, or is that more
We
kept?
do.
Okay.
We have the ability to sort not a ton of clothes, but pants and things.
We have like extended closets.
Even
with extra hygiene stuff and clothes.
Anyway, thank y'all. We will see you in February.